Welcome everyone! My name is Emily Ruff. I'm an herbalist and I teach a year-long class called Moon Medicine. I'm excited to share with you a mini class on a special phenomena in the cosmos that we'll get to witness this week. The first lunar eclipse of 2021, happening early in the morning of May 26th. This week's full moon is also a supermoon and falls in the sign of Sagittarius. In this lesson, we're going to explore what conditions are necessary to create the phenomena that we call an eclipse. We'll learn what exactly is a supermoon, and we'll also discuss the influence that the sign of Sagittarius has on this week's eclipse. We'll take a look at some traditional perspectives on eclipses. We'll explore the energetic influences that eclipses have on our planet, and we'll also consider some personal practices that we can invite in to honor the energy of this eclipse week. Now, for some background, I have been a lifelong student of astronomy and astrology. My father was an astronomy and a botany professor, so from an early age, I was both finding roots in the forest and also stretching my imagination up to the heavens. I call my class Moon Medicine because I am fascinated with the intersection of the two sciences, astronomy and astrology, and their alchemical influence on our daily life. Astronomy is the study of celestial phenomena, and astrology curates a map of these phenomena and the patterns that their influence has on our terrestrial experience. For those new to these topics, it should be stated that both sciences have been practiced for millennia, though they often looked quite different in pre-Christian times. If you look at the etymology of the names of these two sciences, you see that the word astronomy breaks down to mean the naming of the stars, and astrology breaks down to mean the study of the stars. But in pre-Christian times, astronomy and astronomers were studying much more than just the orbit of a celestial body or the geological or gaseous makeup of a planet. Astronomers such as Galileo also sought to understand the influences that these celestial bodies had on our thoughts, on our bodies, and on all life on this planet. Exploring these two sciences and integrating their patterns into my lived experience has brought immense benefit to my health, my gardening practice, my relationships, my herbal medicine making, and my emotional and spiritual well-being. Learning more about the relationship between the earth and the heavens on physical and energetic levels through historical traditions, religions, and science has offered me a more integrated experience for my own daily walk on this planet. In addition to my broad study of astronomy and astrology, I also have a long personal relationship with eclipses. My father was what you might call an eclipse chaser. During his college years and in his early years as an astronomy professor, he would borrow telescopic equipment from his university, and he would travel to special locations, even to other countries, to witness both solar and lunar eclipse events. It's even rumored that I might have been conceived on one of these trips where he dragged my mother along with him on an adventure to witness a solar eclipse in another country. As a child, my father would often pack up our family car full of blankets and snacks and a thermos of hot cocoa, of course. And he would drive us out into the countryside where there was no light pollution to watch an eclipse beyond the reach of the city's lights on the side of a country road somewhere. During solar eclipses, as a child, I would accompany my father to his college classes, and we would construct these special devices of sort out of things like cardboard boxes with pinholes in them, so that we could stand outside, hundreds of us, and watch these events taking place in the sky. As I grew up, I too became an eclipse follower. For 15 years, I hosted community gatherings every new moon and full moon in our school's garden in downtown Orlando. And if there was an eclipse coinciding with a full moon, I would extend our gatherings late into the night and invite the community to witness the eclipse with me, even if it meant dragging out sleeping bags and snacks and that thermos of hot cocoa onto the lawn of our school garden, sometimes into the wee hours of the morning. And in 2017, I was blessed to travel across the continent to the West Coast to watch the total solar eclipse as it first touched our continent. I can still remember hearing the buzz of the insects and the birds during that total eclipse as the rush of wind and the air got a bit cooler, feeling the goosebumps on my skin and the tears running down my cheek as I witnessed that profound cosmic phenomena. Eclipses take place a few times every year, but to me, nonetheless, they are precious and unique celestial events that we are blessed to have a chance to witness. So what exactly are eclipses? Well, they are the dance of the orbital patterns between the moon and the earth and the sun. The moon orbits around the earth and the earth orbits around the sun. Lunar eclipses occur when these three orbits align in such a way that the earth gets either fully or partially in between the sun and the moon, throwing the moon into a shadow. Conversely, solar eclipses occur when the moon's orbital path moves directly between the earth and the sun, blocking or eclipsing our view of the sun from planet Earth. Lunar eclipses always take place on full moons, and solar eclipses always take place on new moons. Because of our cosmic alignment, solar and lunar eclipses always occur in pairs. So with our full moon lunar eclipse on May 26th, it will be followed by a new moon solar eclipse taking place on June 10th. The Earth is a much larger object than the moon, so a total lunar eclipse can sometimes last for several hours, whereas solar eclipses tend to be just a few minutes long. Eclipses can be viewed in a certain path or track across the planet. On May 26th in the United States, we will be able to witness a portion of the eclipse from the East Coast in the hours just before sunrise, but then the sun will rise and it will obscure our view. Folks over on the West Coast, however, will have the blessing of witnessing the full event. And even if you aren't in a location within the viewing window of an eclipse, the energetic influence will be felt worldwide. Even if the sun is risen in part of the world, or if the sun is already set when a solar eclipse is taking place, no matter, we still feel it all across the planet. During a lunar eclipse, the moon doesn't disappear completely inside the Earth's shadow, but instead it turns into a deep red color, sometimes described as a blood moon. This occurs due to an atmospheric phenomenon called scattering. The Earth's atmosphere acts like a lens, and it refracts or bends the sunlight towards the shadowed moon. Some sunlight, just a little bit, is allowed to reach the moon, which then gets reflected from the shadowed moon's surface. This explains why we can still see the moon during a lunar eclipse, but we just see it in that shadow. When we think of the orbits of the planets or the orbit of the moon, we often picture them in a perfect circle, but that's not quite how it works. The orbit of the moon is slightly stretched, and as a result, is a bit farther from the Earth at the ends of its orbit, and it's a bit closer to the Earth at the narrower center sections of the orbit. In addition, there's a slight tilt to the moon's orbit around the Earth, about 5 degrees off of parallel. The oblong nature of the moon's orbital path around the Earth creates a phenomenon known as perigee and apogee, or otherwise where we get the term supermoon. Similarly, that 5-degree tilt of the moon's orbit is why, even though the moon is aligned opposite the sun at every full moon, we don't have a lunar eclipse every time there's a full moon. It's because that slight angle means that the moon misses the Earth's shadow by just a little bit. So on special full moon occasions, that tilt and that orbit line up just right, where the Earth then shadows the surface of the moon. So I mentioned the astrological phenomenon known as supermoon, and that's actually a more recently developed term that has gained widespread popularity, but the traditional astronomical term is known as perigee. Perigee signifies those moments when the moon is closest in its orbital path to the Earth. Conversely, when the moon is slightly farther away at the ends of that stretched orbit, it's known as apogee. Supermoon is a lot easier to remember and more fun to say. Moons at perigee, or supermoons, can appear 15% bigger in size and 30% brighter. So by chance, this week's full moon is also at perigee, giving us a supermoon lunar eclipse. Energetically speaking, eclipses are considered times of transformation, and also periods where things that are otherwise in the shadows become illuminated or revealed. Emotionally speaking, it's a great time for us to pause and reflect on inner truth that maybe has been avoided or hidden away, and to give that truth a chance to be seen under the light of the eclipse. Chances are it might make its way to the surface with the eclipse's influence, whether we like it or not. I think it's an auspicious time for us to evaluate limiting beliefs, behavior patterns, habits that are in need of transformation or evolution. Consider writing things down that have been heavy in your heart, but you haven't been given the light of day, in your journal or maybe on some note paper. And if it feels like it's time to release those burdens, you can have a bonfire and let them go under that full moon sky. I also think eclipses are a great time to declutter, clearing out the old to make room for the new as a physical practice that we can use to honor this energetic influence. Choose a room, a cabinet, even one drawer that you can clean out and make a physical practice of releasing things that aren't serving you, so you can create space for new energy that is more aligned with this season of your life. This full moon lunar eclipse falls in the fire sign of Sagittarius, the archer or the centaur, half man, half horse. Sagittarius bridges opposites. It's a truth seeker and an adventurer, which makes this week's eclipse an even deeper dive into finding our inner truth, especially that which we've been tucking away for safekeeping, and allowing it to be revealed under the light of the eclipse. Keep in mind that on a star map, it will show us that the eclipse and the full moon are in the constellation of Scorpio. This is because of a phenomenon called the precession of equinoxes, which has moved sun signs almost an entire sign out of alignment from the star groups for which they were named nearly 2 millennia ago. We explore the concept of precession of the equinoxes and its influence on understanding both tropical and Vedic astrology in further depth in our full moon medicine course. I encourage my students to be gentle with themselves during eclipse periods. Make time for a foot bath or a walk in the woods. Carve out some space for meditation. Let yourself take that afternoon nap that's calling to you. Typically, eclipse seasons are times when one door closes and another opens, and it's important that we honor the emotional work involved in releasing the old and making space for the new. Make sure to give yourself grace and tenderness every chance that you can, especially so that you can extend that same patience and compassion with others around you who are also being influenced by the eclipse this week. The ancient Chinese, Vikings, indigenous North Americans, and really every ancient culture had a mythology and a cosmology about eclipses, intricate and profound explanations for these phenomena. For millennia, cultures devised articulate technology that would predict the arrival of eclipses like clockwork, and even architected special ceremonies to observe their presence. In fact, many of these traditions are still alive to this day. Some indigenous cultures would gather to bear witness to the cosmic show in the sky, while others considered it impure or bad luck to look at an eclipse, insisting that families retreat indoors until the event had passed. Even the Christian Bible describes an eclipse-like phenomena that occurred just after the crucifixion of Jesus that historians have referenced to solar eclipses that took place in the years surrounding the death of Jesus Christ. Historically, the May full moon is also known as the flower moon, the milk moon, or the corn planting moon, among other folk names. This year is also the full moon under which many countries will be honoring the Buddhist celebration of Wesak, or the Buddha's birthday. All in all, it's an auspicious week to be gazing up at the sky. And I hope you feel inspired to make plans to wake up early or stay up late on the morning of May 26th to witness that full moon, supermoon lunar eclipse. If your location isn't situated in the viewing window, or clouds obstruct your view, or it's simply not a good time with your schedule, there are many streaming live and recorded websites where you can witness that cosmic event at another time. I call it eclipse season because, as I mentioned, full moon eclipses are always paired with new moon solar eclipses. Stay tuned to our next mini lesson where we'll be exploring the influence and energies of the upcoming solar eclipse taking place on June 10th. If you enjoyed this lesson, be sure to like and subscribe for more free class content in your inbox each week. And if the studies of the stars is calling to you, hop on over to moonmedicine.org, where you can download a sample lesson from our upcoming year-long Moon Medicine course, which is starting on summer solstice June 20th. Check the description below and receive a coupon code to save $50 off your enrollment. Until next time, happy moon gazing!